Bring this meeting to order, if we may. Welcome everybody, and good morning. This is a special meeting of our board today. Before we get into our meeting, I'd like to invite Heather Platt to lead us in our safety briefing.
Hello. So in an effort to ensure the safety of everyone in the room, we'll begin with the safety briefing instructions and then and the assignment of safety roles to those present. In the event of an emergency, Mark Childs, just making sure Mark is here, will be responsible for calling 911. Alba Taylor will escort emergency services to the meeting room. Our designated first aider today will be Vesna Dobrik, she's over there. The first aid kit, automated external defibrillator, and nearest fire extinguisher are located in the kitchen area just outside the boardroom, over to the right. If the emergency alarm goes off and resembles a slow ringing bell, everyone is to remain calm and await further instructions. If the alarm is fast and loud, emergency evacuation procedures will begin. Everyone is to leave the meeting area in a calm and orderly fashion, make their way down the main staircase to the ground floor, and exit the building onto Front Street West. Elevator service will be automatically suspended. And if you do need assistance, please make yourself known so that we can provide that support. Once outside, all individuals should make their way to the designated assembly area, which is located on the west side of the Royal York Hotel, along the east sidewalk of York Street. At that point, a head count will be conducted. And in terms of just making sure that everyone gets out safely, if you could look to your left and to your right and ensure that those people have made it to the designated assembly area, that would be great. For our safety moment today, I just wanted to recount a very interesting conversation that we had at our Executive Safety, Security, Health and Environment Committee meeting yesterday. This is a meeting that we hold monthly at Metrolinx to talk about safety issues and concerns for the organization. And one of the things that we talk about on a regular basis is the safety of our rail crossings. And yesterday we had quite an interesting conversation about the safety of level crossings, particularly where pedestrians or cars are crossing rail crossings. And what was noted is that there seems to be, in a lot of cases, a lack of awareness on the part of drivers or pedestrians in terms of the protocols for safely crossing a rail crossing. And one of the things that Greg Percy actually noted is there's an organization called Operation Lifesaver, which Metrolinx is quite heavily involved in. In fact, our VP of Safety, George Bell, is the national chair. And they have some quite interesting tips on rail safety about how to safely cross a crossing, how to cycle across a crossing, making sure that you're doing so safely. And so I thought it was just an interesting reminder that it may seem straightforward, but it does seem that a lot of people could find this helpful. And so I just wanted to flag that for everyone at the table today. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Jay, if I could add to the safety moment before we move on, share something really practical. For the last 2 days, we've been involved with three of our large contractors in a commercial negotiation up at 333 Bay. What's very interesting about this is a venue, it's an arbitration place. It's got a reception, everything. It's on the 9th floor or something like that. And when we started the meeting, I asked can we just get a safety briefing about what's the typical arrangements. They brought someone in who couldn't tell us what the fire alarm sounded like, couldn't tell us could show us where the stairwells were, but couldn't tell us where the gathering place was, couldn't tell us where the AED and first aid. Okay, that's okay. This type of thing happens. So we said, all right, can we just, these are the types of questions, like to know where the first aid equipment is, where the AED is, and evacuation is. What was interesting is the body language of the individual in question was sort of, what are you joking me? I mean, are you having a laugh? Is this serious? So, no, this is serious. Can you tell us where it is? It took 4 hours before they could come back with someone that could talk to us about what the alarm sounded like. And this was a security individual, security guard of the organization. No one in reception knew what it was. And we couldn't, till the last day, till even on the last day, still didn't have any indication of what the fire drill arrangement was in terms of where to gather on an emergency event. So this may sound frivolous, but it's not. You need one alarm, you need one incident, and you're in a high-rise building, middle of Toronto, and you cannot exit, or you don't know where to exit, and I just think lesson to be learned. Now, we will courteously correspond with that organization and share and say this is the experience, and really your people didn't seem to aware what the fire drills was, and this is something you need to look at. Yeah, and it's just, I'm just wondering how many organizations actually get into situations and even ask the question. And that's what this whole safety focus is so important. I mean, if there was an incident, these were the CEOs and CFOs of 3 of our biggest contractors. This was an intense 2 days. If you had an incident, that's a valuable part of our industry. You wouldn't want those people to be caught in a situation where you can just not think about it. I just think it's in this day and age we should really drive things like that really hard.
Well, that's the iconic story out of 9/11, that the one guy who drilled his financial company employees, like I think almost monthly or something, they thought he was a total crackpot.
But it made all the difference.
They got out.
They got out.
Yeah, and a gazillion people didn't. He didn't either, because apparently went back in to help others and whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, because they drilled all the time.
Well, I'm in that same building. Now I'm going to go back and check it out.
Yeah.
I'm in 333 Bay. That's where my office is.
Actually, there's a lot of people at 330 Bay.
Well, a lot of lawyers anyway.
Oh, well.
No wonder, right? Anyway. Today marks the first time we're going to include a land acknowledgement in the start of our board meetings, and we'll continue to do so at every meeting going forward. I'd like to thank Cleo Strarem, one of our directors who's not here today, a proud member of the Fond du Lac Nation in Saskatchewan, for bringing this to our attention and for making this suggestion. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge that we are on the lands traditionally occupied by Indigenous people. Hundreds of years after the first treaties were signed, they are still relevant today. They continue to care for this land. They continue to shape Ontario today, and I want to show my respect. In particular, the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Haudenosaunee, and the Huron-Wendat are the original keepers of this territory. Also, I'd like to acknowledge that we have a new board member joining us today. Please help me welcome Reg Pearson. Reg was with the Ontario government for a long time, has 35 years of experience as a labor relations practitioner, and now runs his own practice. Reg retired from the Ontario Public Service, where he's responsible for all public sector bargaining and compensation for the province, as Associate Deputy Minister in the Treasury Board Secretariat. He's held critical roles impacting bargaining and compensation for the province, and he has helped to resolve major disputes across several public service sectors. A warm welcome to you, Reg, and we look forward to working with you. This special meeting of the board has been convened to discuss the recommendations for revision of Bylaw Number 2 and Bylaw Number 2A of the Metrolinx Act to facilitate the Kids Go Free initiative. And Mark, you are going to take the lead on this with Sharon, right?
Thank you to the board, and thank you for convening this special meeting. I think it's with absolute excitement and high energy that Sharon and I are here today to kind of, I think, bring the formal proceedings to the table related to the Kids Go Free opportunity that we've shared updates throughout the course of the last 10 months as the Barrie pilot has been successfully run and proven. I think it's particularly exciting to know that we are on the verge of engaging the next generation of riders, not just to engage them, but to excite them as we open up Kids Ride Free on March 9th. So Sharon will talk through the proposal just very quickly. I think we'll in expediency we will make sure that we're covering the highlights, knowing that we have provided updates to the board previously. And specifically the bylaw changes that we are focused on today is the redefinitions of child and minor to accommodate the proposed changes, and accordingly eliminating the child fare provision in the documents. As well, there is the proposal that the fare table will be updated following the board's approval. There are a few other minor changes administratively to both of the bylaws, and if there are any questions on those, we can handle those together with Alba. So,
Great.
Sharon, over to you.
Thank you very much. So I'll assume that this product has been read, and I'll just kind of hit some of the keynotes. So we were able to design and support a minister's announcement yesterday at Ripley's Aquarium. Ripley's is one of our Presto Perks partners, so adults, when they show their Presto card, can receive a 20% discount at the aquarium. So it made wonderful sense to actually launch there. It was a beautiful backdrop. We had a lot of media engagement, and at one point we were trending on Twitter, so that was very exciting for us. So I just wanted to top line kind of the next few weeks of communications. Pending final approval, we will start this afternoon, hopefully, with paid digital, social, and radio tags, so those 10-second announcer spots to start to ready parents for planning for their March break activities and putting Go at the center of that consideration set for transportation. On March the 9th, when the program is in effect, there will be a more robust integrated marketing campaign. It includes 30-second radio spots, digital, social, lots of print and out of home. We'll obviously be using our existing communications channels like on-the-go alerts, onboard announcements, and we'll be doing something interesting with Today's Parent, a branded content hub, if you will, on Today's Parent, which will have 6 or 7 articles on how to enjoy March break, what to do, tips in and around Toronto, and of course, Go Transit will be at the centre of that communications piece. I have some samples. These are very creative concepts. They're not quite final by the time of posting of these materials, but I just wanted to kind of give you a flavor of where we're taking the campaign. The strategic push is free rides mean more adventures, and that's really to lean into the trip purposes. We recognize our Presto Perks partners throughout the creative. These are just 2 samples. On the left is the hero image, if you will. Very attractive. This is a 2D, there's a 3D illustration that is being finalized, but it just is more, it's very whimsical. It's attractive to both children and adults. In the center, this is just one example of how we use a framing device of the doors, windows, of our Go Transit trains and buses to really talk about the adventures that families can go on. So this is obviously promoting our Royal Ontario Museum partnership with Presto Perks. We will have some interesting decals in and around our stations featuring our Go Bear. This kind of leans into those rides, like when you go to Canada's Wonderland and you have like the rides. Are you shorter than this ride? Obviously there will be a legal line around age, but that will be something a bit more disruptive on your day-to-day journey. We will also have an activation in the York Concourse. Go Bear will be there, of course, because everybody loves Go Bear, and we'll be doing something that's Instagrammable, because parents also love to Instagram. And that is a summary of the integrated program. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Just have images of our Go trains looking like daycare centers.
Quiet zone is still in
They
effect.
be traveling at the same time as you. That's the only thing, right? Because in Barrie, as I understand, it was mostly off-peak times
Yeah.
and weekends where
Yes, it was 17%.
children's made the difference, right?
Absolutely.
So are there any questions on either the overview of kind of where we're planning to be between now and March 9th, or the bylaws specifically? Yeah.
Just to, and I'd mentioned this before, one of the things that, like anecdotally, I have been noticing, particularly in off-peak hours, more parents who seem to be taking kids downtown for health appointments, sick kids, that kind of stuff. And I'd said something about, maybe we wanted to try and capture some of that data and see, because there might be some interesting data in terms of what's going on. So to me, this would be really cool in terms of enhancing their ability to do that.
And certainly in the bylaw, we recognize.
Yeah.
Stories and narrative around
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
And I'm trusting that it was noted in the bylaw changes about guardians traveling with folks who may have
Disabilities,
different
yes,
abilities.
that was it, yeah.
I thought that was a great build.
No, thank you for this. It truly is exciting. When I listened to the minister, I saw that there were some, broader policy objectives as well. He spoke about reducing the cost burden to families, supporting communities, especially those that are running family-friendly, reducing congestion, thereby making the roads safer, all within a strong business case, I think, that you've articulated. My question is, what does success look like for us in the short and long term around this? And the second question relates to what procedures are you putting in place, training and so forth, around the fact that we're going to have a subset of our travelers that are going to be traveling free?
Maybe I'll talk to the first part and then flip to you on how we're going to manage the implementation. I think the first thing is, obviously, for the last 10 months, we have been running the Barrie pilot. So I think, the good news here is that the business case, I think, isn't just a projection. It's actually using, analytics from what we've experienced, and we've forecasted, where we believe the ridership and the business and revenue opportunity is going to be, not just from the Barrie pilot, but looking to demographics within each of the corridors. So I feel that the business case is very grounded, and as you say, we believe there is a $9.3 million revenue kind of increase as a function of increased adult riders, which will obviously more than offset the loss of ridership fare from under 12s, under 13s, and I think it's a really robust business case, and we are confident that ridership, as we've seen with Barrie, will make for customers and for families a much more competitive proposition to take transit and to take Go.
And with respect to the second half of your question, we have a team of 26 people that have been working around the clock on this initiative for the last 4 months. Once we had approval to proceed with looking at how we would roll this out across the region. That included transit safety and our fare inspection team. We have very well-trained, very smart and capable fare inspectors and transit safety officers who use their judgment every day in terms of verification of age. As of right now, at this moment, hopefully in 5 minutes it'll change, the 6 to 12-year-old age group, they get a 50% discount, and once you are 13 and up, it's an 18% discount. So they're already checking ages, they're already used to those situations. So we're very, very confident. We didn't experience any issues or concerns around age verification on Barrie, so we're confident that will be replicated across the region. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Contextualizing it somewhat with the press in the TTC about fare evasion and Presto cards for youngsters, we've just not seen that same impact. We've not seen on the Barrie trial that same sort of fare manipulation or fare evasion as much. And if it's appropriate, we should have a separate conversation about the fare evasion issues that TTC face and what the role of an agency is to regulate that and to look after that. So we can do that at some point in the board discussion.
How do you check the age of a 10-year-old?
I don't have this.
They don't really have any ID.
Show me your driver's license.
So we are definitely relying, obviously, on the judgment and discretion of our enforcement officers.
Okay. I just wondered if there was something I was missing about.
Maybe if you could comment, I'm more interested on the safety aspect. So were there any things out of the Barrie pilot around safety concerns that you're particularly trying to address, or?
There was no apparent safety issues with Barrie. Children traveling across our system, it's up to a family's discretion on kind of what's appropriate for their individual child, because every child is different. I know my 7-year-old's crazy. I wouldn't let her travel alone. So I think we didn't experience anything on Barrie, and again, and I also a nod to the Go community. The Go community of riders are a very tight-knit group and a very observant group, and I would expect that they would lean into any safety issues as if they arose.
The only thing I would add, in the bylaw, there is a specific call-out of the group that's now minors, of course, where we are saying that children under the age of 6 cannot travel alone, and I think that was important revision in the bylaw.
And do you have a sense of the percentage of kids 6 to 12? I would think it's like 95% are accompanied anyways, right? That's partly the...
I don't have the specific information on that, so we can report back to the board, but we do have that.
Yeah.
That would be interesting to know how many under 12s travel on their own.
We can come back to the board.
Very exciting.
Please, Michael.
Good morning. Just a comment. I wanted to commend you on the rollout. Having kids who are older now and they can afford to pay, Years ago, we had teams where we would either have sporting groups or school groups together. And all these groups are run on very tight budgets. And one of the things I think you'll be seeing is many more of these community groups, hockey teams, soccer teams, having now the ability to get on and go to a tournament where they weren't able to do that previously. And so I can tell you, we've been involved in many hockey team discussions about, can we get to this tournament in Toronto? Well, we can't because the kids either have to be driven or there's a cost to the transportation. So I think there's a huge welcome for these smaller community groups, teams, school teams. So I wanted to highlight that. I think it's an excellent job by Metrolinx rolling this out.
We will have information available online, so those groups can actually reach out and get some information. We would typically ask if they're traveling with a larger group, that would just let us know so we can make sure that a bus will be able to take you to your destination. But we have a customer care team that can support.
Any other questions? Luigi?
Yep. I think already the pilot has proven that partnerships help drive this, especially since it's off-hour traffic and weekends. How often will you be reporting back to us on the progress of achieving the $9 million on the business plan, and what plan is there in terms of the increase of the partnerships, that rate to drive that positive result?
So I would anticipate, certainly as we move into the regular cadence of board meetings and the customer experience committee, that we would report back as we do on the KPI metrics, of course, which include both kind of progress and delivery of results, return on investment included. And we do have a very active program on Presto Perks, if you want to.
Yeah, I'm happy to speak to that. So we have 8 partners right now. They are physical attractions across mostly in the 416 right now, but we do have Legoland up in Vaughan. We have 2 partners that are in final agreements at the moment, 2 additional partners, and we have 7 that we've just started negotiations with. Now, they're just attractions. We have Presto Perks offerings for events throughout the year in addition. So it is a strategy that is very focused, not just on the 416, but we really do want to get those partners in the 905 so we can drive counterflow ridership out to Oshawa and Hamilton.
I think what's also useful, what's so good about that question is we've got a number of fair initiatives that are in the pipeline that we're going to discuss with the board still. We've got this very significant drive on a third party, the ride-hailing initiative. And we've got Presto Perks. And I think if we take exactly the question Luigi has asked and wrap all of those in an early summer report and then perhaps end of the year report to show on all of these initiatives what's the cumulative effect and what can we separate out and what do we learn from it, I think that would be very helpful for the board.
The second part of the question was, I read in a line something that I thought was very interesting and intriguing, where you're going to be encouraging the children to have a Presto card. Can you help us understand how that would work? I can see tremendous opportunity and benefits around affinity partnerships with that card, but how, obviously they can get on without the card, but how would you encourage them, and what is your vision around encouraging them to get a card, and what would make them want to get it?
So I think absolutely. I think as we sort of plan into phase 2, and we'll come back to this table to share those plans, the intention, we really love the idea of not just engaging kind of the next generation of riders to be excited about traveling by train or traveling by bus, but also to feel the full experience, including Presto. So we definitely have a plan in the works, and we'll come back to the table.
Red, you have a question?
Just a quick question on the degree to which you're going to be monitoring the increased ridership. Obviously, at rush hour periods and so on, it's crowded. Just to make sure that, if we're going to have increased capacity, that we're prepared for that.
We have today now a very, very robust monthly cadence of reviewing ridership across each of the corridors as well as by station, and we'll be, as we have been with Barrie, reporting that monthly internally at Metrolinx, and we do bring those updates to this table and to the Customer Experience Committee, and we'll absolutely be monitoring it and measuring and course correcting if we need to.
Other questions? Well, let's vote on the bylaw. You all have the bylaw, have seen the bylaw. And so could I have somebody move this? Thank you. And, sorry, you second? Okay, thanks, Dan. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sharon, Mark. And, I think that terminates our meeting for this morning.
Thank you
Thank
very
you very
much.
much.